Welcome to Crafts and Minis. Today I have a toy haul that I wanted to share with you. Last week I went out of town and I was really pleased with what I was able to find. I had some time to be able to go to some local game stores in a new area that I hadn't been to before, and so I looked those up online, and one of the local game stores I went to was next door to a used toy store that was awesome. And I can't believe I only walked out of it with these two items, but they're not the only ones I'm going to share with you today. So I found these at this used toy store, and what's so cool is like this guy was sold loose, and I don't know what he's from, right? I mean, I could look on the bottom here. It's from Mirage Studios, so 2004. So maybe that helps you know what it's from. I don't know what this is from, but it looked really cool, like a rock golem I could do or something like that, earth elemental. It would go on a 3-inch, maybe even a 4-inch base. That would make it ginormous, but it's really cool. But when you're looking at toys, right, I like this guy because his body would be easy to do some putty work on to cover up these seams, and he has the screws in the back that if you undo, you can then glue in the limbs to the position that you want them, put this back on, screw it in, put some putty over there, and then you are working with a whole new model to be able to use for the tabletop. And I just found that his mouth moves, which is fun, but not needed for the tabletop, so that's going to get glued shut probably. But he's going to paint up really well, so I was really excited to find that. I also found these awesome Lord of the Rings toys. These are Mordor orcs, orc scouts. Now, these are probably, 2.5 inches tall, like 60 millimeters tall, something like that. And they come with weapons, right? So when you're looking at toys with their hands, if they have like that kung fu grip, you got to figure out what you're going to do. You're probably going to put something in that hand like a weapon. Awesome. Well, these already come with weapons I can glue in easily. And I know they're really iconic. Like, if you're familiar with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies, you've seen these before. But what you can do is give them just a repaint, right? And now these are large-size troll-like creatures, right? Or weird-looking ogres. Or maybe you have, like, ginormous bugbears in your setting or something. But these are going to look really cool just painted up. Now, the limbs move, so you're going to have to figure out what you want to do to glue those in place, probably to be able to use on the tabletop. But you could even use like a little putty to give them a hood or a helmet, or a cape of some time, a cloak. Not a cape. They're not going to be like Superman, but they were a lot of fun, so I couldn't believe I found that. Now, I also went to another used toy store that I found that was disguised as a pop culture shop, but they just had a ton of used toys. And I got these. I've already have 2 of these, but that's the cool thing. When you start doing some hunting for miniatures, especially out of toys that you can use, you might find stuff that you really have a fondness for because they work out really well. This purple dragon is one of those things. It's a dragon that fits on a 2-inch or large size base, a 50 millimeter base. And I love that, right? And especially when it comes to dragons, when you find a sculpt you like, just paint them a different color. And then you got a different type of dragon. And it's awesome. So I already have one of these, or maybe 2, I can't remember. But now I got another. It's going to paint up awesome. The other thing when you're looking at toys that you want to look at is the base. Okay, so this base is clunky and it's huge. And it makes an already really tall miniature super tall. Taller. And right now I don't like the paint job at all. I don't like the 2 tones, the red and the brown, and Mr. Green Pants, right? But what could be really cool, and I've seen this done for like Kings of War, that someone used this in an army for Kings of War, you could paint this up all the same color. And now you're working with an incredible forest creature. And then you just got to figure out, do you want to take the time to take this integral base off? Which I would. Even though it's going to be difficult, it's going to be totally worth it. Always use caution, though. Don't do anything crazy with it. Something that you're going to get hurt by potentially. I shouldn't have to say that type of stuff. But, man, I watch so many YouTube videos about people working on minis. Some of you scare me with your knife work. Just please be careful. Don't lose any fingers working on your minis. These were at that same store, and they are a lot of fun. So I think these are all from Funko, the company that makes the Funko Pops, right? And they sell these boxes for different like video games or movies or just different lines that when you buy them, they're a mystery. Right? And I know there are different companies for miniatures that do the same thing with like collectible miniatures. So they have these mystery Funko toys. And so this guy I think was from Gears of War, I think. And I actually looked at it on eBay. And I almost picked one up on eBay, but I didn't. And I'm so glad I found this in the store. Like this could be a boulet, right? Pretty easily. Or, it's got this armor on its back, like a boulet, which is really cool. But I think I have other models that could work with it. And that's what's sometimes really cool about toys. You get a boss monster or a large monster to use with normal gaming miniatures, and they just add a whole different flavor. So this would fit probably on a 3-inch base, but I'd probably put it on an oval base. So that's going to be really cool. I also got this little guy that I think would be awesome because it'll go on a 2-inch base or 50 millimeter base to be a large size creature in Dungeons and Dragons, but repainted. This is going to be a lot of fun. It reminds me of some of the Gourmity figures I have from my very first video for this channel that I did, which you haven't seen the other videos about how I use toys for the tabletop and convert different things. You're going to want to check those out. This reminds me of those Gourmity figures, some of them, and it's a lot of fun. But I could see this being used as like a creature that goblins have that they have to keep well fed and keep it placated so that it doesn't attack them. But when your party comes along, it just goes crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of fun. So toys like that are just a blast. This guy is a bit of a stretch. Honestly, the more I look at him, the more I'm not sure if I can actually use him on the tabletop without a ton of work because he's just so dang cartoony. Now, obviously, I would give him a new paint job, but his eyes are smooth. So right now, he doesn't have eyes at all, which he's a weird stitched together creature with his guts hanging out. Maybe that would be actually kind of cool now that I think about it, to paint him up and have no eyes, just a flesh mask. Oh, that is jacked. But we'll see. Another thing you can do with miniatures, this one wouldn't necessarily be the best example at all. This is kind of a stretch, but you can always use them for terrain. So you stick them on a block, right? Go get 9 wood counting blocks, right, from the Dollar Tree, and use one of those, stick it on there, glue it on there. Now paint it gray, or do a metallic color, do a little weathering, and you got a statue. This would be a freaky statue to come across, right? That this like weird undead creature was being worshipped by some cult, and away you go. Like I said, a little bit of a stretch, but the principle's sound. That sometimes you find miniatures that just the scale doesn't work exactly right, but you could use it for a statue or a piece of terrain with a little bit of work. Actually, some cake toppers I came across from Lord of the Rings were that type of deal. Now, the other store I went to was GameStop. GameStops are all over the place, and even though they have a small amount of toys, they're actually becoming one of the few toy stores that are easily found outside of like the big box stores like Target and Walmart and stuff like that. And GameStops usually have a section of sale toys. That's where this guy came from. Now, this guy, I forget what game it's from. It's from Blizzard, which if you look there, the lettering there, stands out. So if I'm going to repaint this, I'm going to have to shave that off first and smooth it down, either use a file, or a hobby knife, and maybe do a little putty to smooth it out. And you got to decide, how that's going to work. Now, what I'm planning on doing is repaint this thing, mount it on base, repaint it, prime it, paint it into some sort of armor golem, right? Some sort of animated suit of armor. Now, it's got a goofy head. It's a little big. I get that. But in the right setting and the right type of armor, that could be kind of cool. I don't know. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it was on sale, and I picked it up. Now, when you're doing fantasy stuff, you can use stuff that's not exactly fancy. Like this back, to me, screams a little more sci-fi, right? Or painted in a certain way, a little more steampunk or something like that. Same with this hammer. It's like a jet propulsion hammer things going on. Okay, you got to decide. Am I just going to leave it as is, just repaint it? No one's going to notice. Yes, that's probably what I'm going to do. You could do a little work to putty in those gaps so it doesn't look like that, but you just got to decide. I love Crafts Nick. His channel's great because he's got the motto, right? Keep moving forward, always make progress. And that's what I try to do in this game too. So keep moving forward, make that progress. Now, when it also comes to that GameStop, I went to a number and I found this cool guy. Now, he wasn't on sale. I splurged just a little bit on him. I think he was $15, which I know some folks out there are thinking that is crazy for a miniature. And or a large miniature toy or whatever. Honestly, price is always relative, right? I love getting super deals on super cheap miniatures. You've seen my other videos, or you know they're there. Go check them out on how you get some deals. This guy wasn't super cheap, but he super works for my plans. Now, this came from the Destiny property, that video game. He's the Herald of Zol, which if you're going to be a herald, have somebody cool that you're a herald of, right? At least a cool sounding name. And if you look at this box, you see that the art shows a guy with a much smaller head. And this has like Funko Pop syndrome and has a monster head. And I don't even think Funko makes this. Nope, it's a different company that makes this. But he still has a ridiculously sized head. And he has like this crazy head cloth on him, right? Now what's cool about this one is you can remove the head cloth or you can leave it on and glue it on, but you know, I'm going to do it like this because I've got some other miniatures that are actual medium size that's going to work great like this as his minions, and I'm going to repaint him. Now, one thing you got to look at with toys, right? How is this going to fit on a base if you're going to use a base? Now, he does stand up on the table. I could use him just like that, but what I'm planning on doing is put him on a base, and actually, I could just put him on a large size base. It's his noggin that is way disproportioned, and if it was upside down, he'd justify a 3-inch base, but I think I could put him on a 2-inch base and get away with it. But notice, it's his robe that I could either glue directly to the base, which actually, now that I think about it, it's not a bad option, if that would work. It's not going to be super stable, right? Because the points of contact between the figure itself and the base aren't that many. Some E6000 glue, it might work. But you could also just drill in to the bottom, put a peg in there, right? And then drill that into the base also. That could work. Or something that could work too is you just fill up this gap with putty, or you glue in some aluminum foil, and then you glue the whole thing down to a base. And the more I talk, the more I like that. Now, the cool thing you could do that you have an option like this to do, you have a toy like this, you can do this as an option, is let's say my finger is the base, you could have it raised just a little bit off the base and then he's floating, and that's more atmospheric too, for depending on what type of figure you want. But like I said, this guy fits in with a theme, and that's what's so fun about toy hunting. You're going to find figures, different toys that you can use on the tabletop that fit in with a theme you didn't even think about. And that's why I like to say, even though I haven't explained it much on the channel, let the minis be your guide. I know some people you look at concept art, some people come up with a crazy story in their head and their whole campaign in their head and get it down on paper, and they're super creative, and I love that. I like to look at what minis I have and develop the story based on them. And this guy gives me a whole bunch more possibilities. These GameStops also had a sale on Funko Pops. Now, this particular guy is a GameStop exclusive, so you can only find this Earthshaker, which I think is from Dota 2, from GameStop. Or you find it on eBay or secondhand sellers, right? Vintage Stock is another great store that has used toys that I know is in the United States, and you can find all over. This guy would fit on a 3-inch or huge size base, 75 millimeter, and I really like him. I really, really, really like him. Now, there's some issues with Funko Pop toys. Those crazy large eyes, that's their style. Okay, there are things you can do with these eyes that I'm going to show you in some other videos to make it work on the tabletop a little bit better. You also have to notice some of these Funko Pops now are no longer bobbleheads. They don't have the spring connecting the neck to the body. Like this is molded all as one piece, I believe. Oh no, it's a tragedy. I just broke it. No, I didn't. This column, it's like this huge like wrecking battering ram thing that it has all these cool runes on it, which when I saw it, I'm like, okay, I can use this toy as two different things. Take the column off, mount this on its own. It has runes, repaint it. This is an awesome piece of terrain. Now, it got a little crazy when I broke it off. Some of it's still on the toy. I can fix that, no worries. And then I can use this by himself. My idea behind this guy is kind of fun. So you see the straps to his back and this little platform. You can glue barrels, stowage, big bags, right? Boxes, whatever, all around there. And now this guy is how your mountain dwarves travel those mountain passes that no one else can get over, right? Or this is your guy that can trek cross country in crazy conditions, or he's your guy to do a siege on the keep, right? And he does double duty. He brings the supplies to the force that's attacking the keep, and he helps knock in the door. Whatever, right? There's all sorts of cool stuff you can do. And what I like about this, though, is there are some options. I can keep this backpack type thing on here, no problem, and then just work around it. That's probably what I'm going to do. Or you can cut it down. And if you cut it down, look at what's beneath it, is this fur. Fur is some of the most simple stuff to sculpt because you're just dragging your sculpting tool in all these little different directions and working up some fur. And if you already have some there to mix it in with, you can pretty much imitate that. Now, am I a professional sculptor? Not at all. But these Funko Pops have gotten me so excited about the possibilities of what I can sculpt, and I actually did that this week. Enter in one of my very first sculpts. I respect miniature sculptors so much. They are wizards. I don't know how they do it. This was not easy for me, but it was a lot of fun. I took a Funko Pop toy, and this is a toy from Justice League. This is the Doomsday sculpt. That, again, might be a GameStop exclusive. Don't quote me on that, though. Not sure. And it had the classic Funko Pop head. Sorry, I don't have it here, but like the size of my fist, right? Resting on its body. And what was so fun is I got to take it out of the package, which if you collect Funko Pops is a no-no for some people. Others don't care, whatever. And then I got to pull the head off. And that was so satisfying to pull the head off a Funko Pop toy. Yep. But what that opened up was I can use the head for something else, which honestly this particular head is going to be a little more difficult to do, but I got some ideas. But I used some air drying clay, DAS, D-A-S, air drying clay, and you put it on. I first had some aluminum foil, some tin foil in a ball, and then I used a paper clip, undid a paper clip, and hot glued it in as a little armature, a loop here for the jawline. And then I put clay around it. And for the most of this, I only used my finger with some water on it to smooth it out, and then I came by with just a little tool to make some of these striations, some of these lines in here, and it was super fun. I'd never used this air drying clay before, and I know some of the hobbyists out there, like Mel, the terrain tutor, he had a great video about DOS and how you can use it. And I just watched the video, and I'm not like saying, oh, you just watch the video, then you can go sculpt minis. No, but I'm saying it wasn't as hard as what I thought it would be. And I actually had a couple hours to work with this, and I was able to do cool stuff like continue the little spikes and stuff onto the area that I sculpted. And, you know, when you're doing just a piece at a time, like you put out a piece for the nose line and then a piece for the ridge, and then I put the beads in. These are just really cheap beads that I put in there, and then, you know, sculpted around them. Honestly, it wasn't crazy hard, but I was really fortunate on this one. I say that. I sculpted on another Funko Pop, which if you follow me on Twitter, you can see what I did there, and it did not turn out well. I can't believe I even shared it online. I was so excited because it was my first sculpt and this was my second. But I tore that head off. I sculpted again. Didn't like it. Tore that head off. And now I have a good idea. That's the problem. I knew what I wanted out of this guy. I wanted like a Rocky looking monster, you know, with a big old jawline, prominent jawline that looked like it could crush anything that it decided to chew on. And I knew that I could carry on some of these spikes onto here, whatever this head was going to look like. And I knew I didn't really want a neck. Like, he doesn't have a neck, right? And painted up, he's going to look awesome, which right now in my area, it's so super cold. It's under 10 degrees Fahrenheit, so I can't prime outside like I'd like. And I don't have my airbrush set up, which I really need to do. So I can't prime this guy right now, but I'm so excited to get him primed and get him painted after I mount him on a base, of course. And he is going to look so awesome on the tabletop. I got ideas for what I want him to be, right? Like, he's that type of creature that, you know, a group comes across and it's an ancient creature that either has been reawakened or has been slumbering, and now this particular group has to keep it happy and well fed. You could even treat it like, you know, a dragon that needs its horde, so that it doesn't attack the village, and maybe this village keeps this thing at bay, but the village gets ransacked by gnolls, and now this creature is threatening the whole region, and your group gets sent in to figure it out. Figure it out, right? So much fun. I let the minis be my guide. That's kind of a tagline for this channel, and I haven't explained it enough in other videos, and I have a lot of fun plans for videos of actually basing stories on the miniatures, not do a story and then try to get miniatures to fill in where you need them, and it's so much fun. That's what really has set me free in this hobby, is allowing myself to look at crazy things and say, man, could I make it look cool? Not could I use it first, which you could always use that question instead. But could I make this look cool? Because if I can make it look cool, I'll have the option to use it down the road. And that's so much fun. Now, that's also how you become a mini hoarder, which I do hoard the minis, no doubt. But it is a lot of fun. Last thing I want to show you came in this week from China that I ordered on eBay. It wasn't at this store, but it is a toy find. Now, this is a creature also from Dota 2. Look that up on eBay and look under hero clicks for Dota 2, because they have some awesome hero clicks that I have that I'll show you some other time. But this guy came in, and what I wanted to show you was, this is weird. This is not 3D printed itself, at least I don't think so, because it's like a rubbery material. And I don't know a ton about 3D printing, but I don't think that's right. But it looks like it was 3D printed, right? Which tells me, I think they 3D printed a master that was on one of those printers that's, you know, not the resin type, but the other type that uses the filament to do the layers, because those are like 3D printed layers. I don't think it's supposed to, I don't know, maybe the creature in the game is like that, but it looks like they used a not well 3D printed model as a base for a mold, and that's just kind of weird. So this isn't the best quality. I think I got it on eBay for under 15 bucks, which for a huge size figure is not bad. And I have plans actually that I've been thinking about. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make this some sort of crazy forest creature, right? Like a monstrous fey monster, maybe something like that in the forest. And I think that could be kind of cool. But I just wanted to warn you, when you look at figures, when you're buying it sight unseen, besides just a picture online, you don't know for sure what it's going to be. And then like things you might not notice until you get in your hands. Look at its hands compared to its feet. The hands go lower than the feet. So this could not sit flat on a base. It would have to sit crooked if you wanted the heel and the hands to all fit flat on the base. And so that's not good. So I'm probably going to keep this base and mold, use some clay around it or build it up with some cork, and then use some pumice paste on it or something. It'll all look fine on the base. But this is a toy, right? So you got this mold line connecting the head and the body. You got more connecting the arms to the body. Or you got like those gaps, right? Or the joins that just aren't great. And then you can see the mold lines. This guy's going to be a lot of work. That's why when I look at him, I'm like, you know, I can use some of this, obviously. Texture's awesome when you're talking about painting. And you can tell this guy's like dry brushed, it looked like, which is great. I do that all the time. But I'm going to use some of this texture and then cover up some other with some putty and clay and different things, and still make this usable on the tabletop. But it's a lot of work. And that's one thing you do have to be aware of. If you're going after toys for the tabletop, some of them can be a lot of work, but they also can be super worth it, especially when you're getting stuff that you can use with different groups as your big bad, when you're getting stuff that with just a little repaint is going to look awesome, when you're getting stuff that could also be potentially used as terrain. And when you bring out a figure made out of a toy that looks like it belongs on the tabletop after a little work, a little paint, a little converting, your players are going to be so thrilled. And that's, you know, a huge part of this hobby for me is just doing something really cool that I can share. And I've just loved sharing stuff with everybody on this channel. And I love all the support. It's like over 200 subscribers now. And I didn't think more than 20 would ever care about anything like this. But I just really appreciate all the support, the likes, the comments. All the interactions on other social media too has been a ton of fun. Go check out all sorts of great crafting channels that are popping up there. Someday I'll do a video reviewing all of my favorites right now. But Craftsnicks, Five Header, the Dungeon Matster, Dungeon Craft are some of the ones that I've just been really having a lot of fun with. Of course, the Crafting Muse and Black Magic Craft and DM Scotty and Wylock and DMG Info and Blandco and Miniature Mashup. I love Dave. I love Dave so much. Dave, I should just dedicate this channel to you and all your inspiration that you've given me. But I love all the channels, right, that are just getting after the craft. And I know I haven't named all the ones I enjoy. I have like over 150 subscriptions just for basically Dungeons and Dragons, painting channels, crafting channels, and I love you all. It's awesome. So thank you so much for checking this out. When you're going to a new town, check out what hobby stores they have, check out what toy stores they have, check out deals on various Facebook groups for swaps that you might be able to find, some different trading groups, check out garage sales, check out what's in your own basement, and this week, go get after your hobby.